Hi, my name's Tony Ridley and welcome back to another Crisis Leadership and Management Education tutorial. In this session we're going to be talking about the roles and responsibilities of team members. Remembering the caveat is not a physical location based, it's not constrained by their proximity. That means they don't have to be in the room or in the building. Roles and responsibilities and the composition of crisis management teams as a whole can be many and varied, and certainly not bound by constraints of physical presence, particularly in the electronic space. Phone calls, emails, video conferencing and so on, they could be spread all around the world. So remembering that this composition and distribution is not bound by, it's not specific to the physical presence of everyone that's currently located. Crisis management teams form a composition of roles, functions, responsibilities, technical inputs and so on, and this is just one of those particular areas. In previous sessions we've covered the chief executive or unit head's role. In this session we'll be talking about the business continuity and or risk management role for the key appointment in that space. So one of the key elements, or one of the foundation requirements for this particular role is both the development and maintenance of business continuity plan. Now, whilst this may not seem relevant during a crisis management, it's important to articulate the responsibility and role in the preparatory phase. And what that means is that if somebody else has built the plan and somebody else was involved in the business continuity and maintenance of the business continuity plan, then that's the person that needs to be representative here. The individual requires intimate working knowledge, an understanding of all of the requirements, the escalations, and certainly the risk appetite as it relates to the risk management function as well. Now, I've clumped these two together, but they can often be two individuals, but at least one representative element should form the basis of a functional crisis management team in the sort of the top 7 or 8. So it's important that they've been involved in both the development as well as the maintenance, because again, this is an evolutionary process, and it's continually being added to and refined and contextualized. So the individual or the individuals that represent this need to have been involved in that particular phase. Now, the other thing too is that they needed to have contributed. They may not have delivered it themselves, but they certainly needed to have contributed to the training and communication of specific elements within the business continuity plan. Now, again, the reason that this is important is because, the expression of you remember 10% of what you read, 40% of what you hear, 80% of what you see and hear, and 90% of what you teach others. So it's important that a representative element has gone through that experimental or the experience process of explaining exactly what's in the business continuity plan as it relates. Now, it may have been in the training and education of a facilitator and a trainer or various other departments, but they need to understand that it's important to take that plan and concept from a design phase or a written format to that of a functional, practical guide for business decision makers. And that's important. It's often lacking in either many individuals or the processes because they need to be able to make the plan come alive, and they need to be able to quickly and succinctly communicate the priorities, the concepts, and certainly remove any of the background discovery. There's nothing worse and nothing more time consuming in a crisis management plan as everybody goes over known facts. Everybody goes over existing plans and procedures. You don't have time for this study element. You need that voice of experience, not so much an oracle, but you need somebody who's already gone through that process, and it's fundamental and important that person be represented in the group. This leads into the next element in terms of the reassessment of risk in light of the circumstances. And once again, you cannot articulate and document every aspect that will potentially take place. So therefore, it's important for that individual with those precursor requirements to have gone through the process to now contextualize what this means to the business, and then identify and steer the group as well as advise on the group in terms of what the available resources, course of action, contingency plans and so on may be. Then it requires, whether it's continuity or risk management, how these risks are to be qualified. You can accept risk, you can transfer risk, you can mitigate, you can simply avoid. Again, qualifying statements that help evidence-based decision making, so individuals or organisations or departments can make informed decisions at which stage their risk appetite has been reached, exceeded, or approaching a point of compromise or change management, as well as needing to be able to identify and justify the decisions that are being made. Again, this individual can either be confrontational or diplomatic, but the reality is they have to be able to comment and advise without fear of prosecution, to the point where if the group or the organisation is going in a questionable direction or making questionable decisions, this individual needs to have the intestinal fortitude to be able to make that commentary. So what should become apparent here is that this is certainly a very specific and far more encompassing role and responsibility than many organisations and departments give credit to. So the individual has to not only be technically competent, but also be able to carry their weight with a C-suite or contribute in a meaningful fashion, because they need to act as the group and the organisation's conscience based on all of the evolutionary documentation and analysis that it took to get this point. They need to be able to advise, and this comes back to the earlier stages of having experience in the development, the training. What is the extant business continuity plans? It may be in revision number 52, but what are all of those not in the plan elements that were considered? What was included, excluded, all those elements? What is the latest piece of information? And they need to be they need to be able to provide that. And this overall helps them provide the corporate crisis management guidance, because again, that should be documented. It should be a compliance or reference process or a benchmark in which everybody's working as a guide, and they should be able to contribute to that fashion. It's simply not an archive or a curator or a librarian. They just know where the documents are. This individual needs to have intimate working knowledge on the plans. It has to understand the business, and it has to have the ability to contribute as a voice of conscience or reason for the rest of the group, or in cohort with the group, as they're focused on more technical or priority issues. So once again, that concludes this element of the team training, the team composition. Once again, thanks for joining us in the crisis management, leadership and education tutorials. For further information and more tutorials on this, please visit the website at www.crisismanagement.tony-ridley.com. Once again, thanks very much, and that's all for now. Bye.